What's going on, guys? Brendan here at Yankees Fan Unleashed. Today I'm going to be going over the whole drama with Marcus Stroman and why the Yankees should actually keep him. They should actually keep him as their sixth starter. He's going to have to suck it up and probably start in the bullpen for the year. And they should actually probably have a seventh and maybe an eighth starter lined up to go. Okay, I mean, eighth is probably a stretch, but if you look at their rotation, major injury risks, okay? Every single starter they have has had serious arm or back injuries within the past 2 years. First, let's just take a look at all of the injuries all five of our current starters have in the past, in the very recent past. First, you start with Garrett Cole, who of course last year missed half the season, roughly, with a shoulder injury in his throwing arm. Okay, now thankfully we avoided worst case scenario there, and hopefully things are behind him for that, but you don't know. Then you've got Max Fried. Max Fried actually has some really serious injury problems. That's one of the reasons why his contract was not as big as some of the other free agents recently in starting pitching. Max Fried last year had something called a left forearm neuritis, whatever. I have no idea what that is. But his left forearm is, of course, his throwing arm. And the year before, 2023, he missed half the year with an injury to his left forearm. Now, he's also around 10 years removed from a Tommy John surgery. And we know from history now with the Tommy John surgery that arms that get Tommy John surgery don't last forever. They likely need a second one at some point. So you're looking at a real risk here of an injury with Max Fried. And I hope none of this is true. I hope all five never get injured. Then you've got Carlos Rodon. He's the only pitcher on our staff last year who didn't, or on our staff this year who didn't get put on the DL last year, whatever they call it now. And so, but the year before, 2023, he missed a lot of the season with a back injury, which the Yankees called chronic. Okay? And there are two things that are serious problems for pitchers, and that's an injury to your throwing arm and back. Obviously, there's other legs too, but those are the two biggest and hardest to come back from. I mean, a back injury is just awful. And then you got Clark Schmidt, who had a right lat strain last year and missed, a lot of the season last year, right? And that's also a back injury. He's a righty, okay? And then you've got Luis Gil, who, got Tommy John in 2022. And then he, if you remember, he even spent 15 days on the IL with a back strain as well. So you know that at some point, maybe even going into opening day, like I said, I hope not, but we still got some time here that you're going to need someone else to step up to the plate. And right now, it looks like, even though Stroman really did not perform, I would say, overall well last year, right? I mean, his month of May was really good. He had an ERA under 2 in the month of May, but every other month was above a 4. He got worse as the year went on. In September, he had an ERA close to 9. And he did have, he had 5 appearances. 3 of them were starts. 2 of them were, out of the bullpen, 3 innings or so. So, and then he basically did nothing for us in the playoffs. He wasn't even on the roster in some of the series. So I'm not saying at all that Marcus Stroman is is going to be our playoff starter or anything like that. But I'm saying, what are you going to do? You're going to have Will Warren. Remember him? He's on our 40-man still. He's probably the next man up. If you trade Stroman, he's probably going to be the fill-in. He was already the fill-in last year. And I'm going to be going over a few other players on our 40-man roster in a second, but they really don't have any kind of solid starter outside of the 6. First, the Yankees have Clayton Beeter, who you might remember from last year. He made some appearances for us. The Yankees acquired him in 2022, along from the Dodgers in the Joey Gallo trade. And the Yankees see him as a promising prospect. He's on our 40-man roster. But the New York Post just reported today that the Yankees see him more as a reliever. So that's the first strike. That's the first potential starter that's now been struck as well. And then the Yankees have a guy by the name on the roster, JT Brubaker, who has about 3 seasons under his belt, all with the Pirates. He is a starting pitcher. He had an ERA of 4.69 last year. Career ERA is 4.99. He's a little better. He does a little more strikeouts than Stroman does, but like I said, he is overall, I would say, likely to be a weaker starter option than Stroman. Yankees have another player on their roster, Yandres Gomez, who has very limited major league experience. He apparently pitched about 11 innings last year. Gave up some runs. I mean, you can't really judge a guy on 11 innings his first time out in the majors. He does have 96 games started in the minors since 2017, and his ERA is 3.49, which again, you're talking about the minors. So, when you're talking about the minor leagues, you gotta assume that they're going to do worse in the majors. So, Stroman was around 4.3 last year. I mean, many major league pitchers dance in the 4s. They're usually 4 or 5 in the rotation. So you're talking about someone who could come up and step in if they needed someone to, but you don't know. And then, so the Yankees have 1 or 2 other guys, along with Will Warren, on their roster who have starting experience in the minors. Again, nothing that really stands out. And like I said, it's not like Marcus Stroman stands out at this point in his career, at least not for good reasons. But you got to start talking about, especially with our division looking more and more competitive by the day. You got the Red Sox signing Bregman. They look like they're the Red Sox again. You, of course, have the Orioles, who are just a prospect juggernaut. You've got the Blue Jays, who made some improvements. Not too many this year, but they were a disappointment last year, so maybe they, step things up. They still got a number of great hitters. You can't discount them. And then you've got the Rays, who are going to be the Rays. You don't really know for sure what's going to happen with the Rays. They could be subpar, or they could have a bunch of players no one's ever heard of and, be really great. You don't know. So when you're talking about a situation where the Yankees could be in a very competitive division race, and along with the wild card, you're going to start talking about, well, if a pitcher, one of the 5, get injured, even for 15 days late in the season, but if you're talking about someone having, God forbid, like I said, I hope this doesn't happen, but if they go on the 60-day IL, are you going to have Will Warren or some other guy come out there and just hope that they're going to pitch well, or just, to me, it felt like Will Warren became a throwaway game. We were lucky if we won, but when they put Will Warren out last year, I hate to say it, he was kind of a throwaway. We know they did that with Severino in 2023. Now, granted, we weren't going anywhere in 2023, but, in the regular season, we can't afford just to have a throwaway. And granted, Stroman could be worse, but in what situation is it bad to keep him other than money? Now, let's talk about the money, because the Yankees have really gotten themselves in a pickle here. And I'm not going to go into any rant about Cashman or anything like that. They've already said they're going to extend Boone. Cashman's here. They're both here to stay. I'm not going to go into any rants about them, really, unless they do something really terrible. But you have to look at Stroman's contract. Stroman came out. He finally showed up today to spring training and said he's a starter, period. Not bullpen, not anything. And obviously, part of the reason why he's saying that is because of pride. He's got a career. He's clearly a opinionated guy. But his contract is for 3 years, but the 3rd year, he's in his 2nd year now. And the way his contract works is he has an option for next year if he pitches 140 innings this year for another $18 million next year. He's scheduled to make $18 million this year. Now, so that puts Stroman in a real situation where he wants that extra money, because he knows that he's probably not getting $18 million in free agency next year unless he has some incredible year that no one is anticipating. Okay, and then the Yankees want to trade Stroman purely out of money. They want to go past under the what they call the Cohen tax, which is the tax threshold. Supposedly they're $4 million above, and if you're above, it's every dollar is 110% taxed. So they're looking at like $14 million plus another $14 million and another 10%. I don't know, I can't do math. But So you're technically paying like 30 million for Marcus Stroman. Now, I understand that sounds like a lot of money, but you're the New York Yankees, so, and also I don't really care about Hal Steinbrenner's, pocketbook. So there's that, and if the Yankees really wanted to focus on winning, they would not care about the tax threshold, especially since, if you look at it, to be fair from Stroman's perspective, it's, hey, well, they signed this contract and now they want to get rid of it. Well, too bad. And that's kind of the position he took. He said, well, I'm a starter no matter what. And you know what? Too bad. I'm not playing ball here. They know I was listening to Kay today, and, what he really did was, if he's saying he doesn't want to pitch in the bullpen, that really takes away a lot of the Yankees' leverage. But I also kind of disagree, because this isn't the NBA. It's not the NBA. They should be able to say to Marcus Stroman, hey, we got your contract for this year, and, you're clearly the sixth starter, so deal with it. And I think they obviously have to do that very diplomatically. I think you got to get Boone and Judge involved. Supposedly they have good relationships, but I think that's what's got to be done. I think you got to say to him, hey, we want to get a ring on your finger. We want to win a World Series, and so there you go. And, something else I was thinking about, during the whole Soto sweepstakes, nothing about the tax threshold came up. They were willing to go over the Cohen tax threshold to keep Soto. Obviously they weren't willing to go, and I've gone into this already, they did fine, not going so far above anything that Steve Cohen could offer. But, they were willing to, they said they were willing to go over the tax threshold for Soto. I mean, did they think that they were never going to get Soto and they were just lying? Or are they now just trying to save money because they see an opportunity that they can possibly save money? And, I think, as a fan, I think this whole, trying to avoid a tax threshold and a blah, 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 I think it's just what I just said. It's just a blah, blah, blah. I think the Yankees have the money. I just think Hal Steinbrenner wants to save money. I think he really cares about the bottom line. I think he views the Yankees as his hedge fund. That's my theory. He kind of views the Yankees as his hedge fund. He doesn't view it as a sports franchise. So there you go. That's sort of my whole take. That was just something I wanted to throw in there at the end. We heard nothing about the tax threshold with Soto. Obviously, they had a limit, but they were willing to go over for Soto. And now that they didn't get Soto, it's, we got to trade Marcus Stroman to avoid the tax threshold. We got to avoid it so badly because we're so poor. We're the New York Yankees. We're worth $7 billion. That's just sort of my last ending rant here. So, all right, guys, I know my videos are still a little raw. They're a little, I'm using my iPhone. I'm sorry if you heard some music. The walls of my apartment are thin. I'm just getting this channel started. I'm hoping to get things improved. But, if you like what you heard, hit subscribe, hit the like button. It's down here somewhere. Comment. I'll comment back if you comment. And like I said, I'll be posting pretty often. So I'll see you on the next one.